Hello there, Seraph17 once again, bringing you the third section to Chapter 2 in my Castlevania 9 difficulty video walkthrough. And this level is called the Labyrinth entrance. And it's going to introduce you to a few random elements in this game. That is riding everything, basically. The majority of the stuff you kill when it comes to being the big enemies, like, you know, the greater werewolves, the wargs, shit like that, you get to ride them. Even the troll guys you get to ride in certain circumstances. And the main reason for this is so that you can bust doors down, climb up vines, or destroy stuff that's in the way. And it's a mechanic that this game really drives home hard. And I'm not too sure why, because truth be told, the sections where you're riding stuff is just completely mind-numbingly average. There's nothing, you know, unique about them. There's nothing cool about them. There's no, you know, memorable set piece. I mean, even Dante's Inferno had a memorable, you know, on-rails riding section when you were riding that giant dude into that city of the underworld. And that was a decent game that everybody shit on because they compared it to God of War. And when you compare things to God of War, things tend to fall short because that game is made by a production company that actually gives a fuck about what they put out. They also have a massive amount of budget that comes from Sony because they're the only people that can put a decent fucking game out for that system. You know, aside from like Naughty Dog and various other people. But they're all the same parent company, so it doesn't matter. But the general thesis of what you have to do here is you have to use this Warhog when you get on top of it to bust down the door. But you'll notice I'm killing these dudes, and I'm not too sure why I'm doing it, truth be told. Maybe I just got excited at the time. But if you run down here, you can spin him around and run all the way back into the door. And I've just actually started playing Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I was pretty late to the party on that one. A friend of mine, well, a bunch of friends of mine actually all played it, you know, at different times and said how great it was. And I'd not played an Assassin's Creed since Assassin's Creed 2, and I really loved Assassin's Creed 2. And as soon as I turned that game on, it sure does remind you of how you can really do with some more Assassin's Creed, because they are just pure fun games. They look fantastic. You're always reminded of how good that engine and how good, you know, the sandbox that Ubisoft have managed to craft. And they're just terrific games. They're really good games. And it kind of makes me laugh when I think back to Ubisoft's, you know, origins. I remember Ubisoft being the developer that everybody looked at and fucking laughed at, because on the N64 they were making games like Chameleon Twists, games that were getting 3s and 4s out of 10, and everyone was saying, like, why did they make a sequel to this pile of shit? So it's nice to see that the company's matured and become a giant, really, because they're definitely putting out some top games these days. But sticking with the Assassin's Creed theme, should I say, it made me wonder, well, hands down, Assassin's Creed, when it comes to being a sandbox game, even though it is a very limited one compared to, you know, your Saints Row and your San Andreas's and your GTA's and all that kind of shit, but it doesn't half have the best combat out of all of them. Even Red Dead, which has got some really satisfying shooting mechanics, Assassin's Creed has the best sandbox combat system ever. Its fighting mechanics are fantastic, and it makes me wonder if any company could actually fuse, you know, the depth and the responsiveness and, you know, the satisfying nature that you get from action games like your God of Wars, like your Devil May Cry's and your Ninja Gaidens and all those kind of games. Even Castlevania sometimes when the game fucking works. But imagine if a developer was able to marry that kind of detailed combat and satisfying combat into a really convincing and enthralling sandbox world. Because, I mean, Assassin's Creed does a very good job of it, but can you imagine the enjoyment you get out of playing a Devil May Cry in a game that has you adventuring all across a world and telling a story and doing quests and stuff? That would probably be the best game ever made for me, because that is like my dream fucking game. And if I could theme it on anything, it'd be Vampire Hunter D. That would be, you know, that is my if I was God game kind of thing that would definitely happen. Or if there was a genie and I could make a fucking wish, that would be one of the wishes. Obviously the first wish would be for 1,000,000 wishes or for infinite wishes, so I could wish for anything and just get ridiculous with it. But it'd just be nice to see two genres come together, because just look at Fallout, just look at those kind of games, how Bethesda were able to marry the in-depth, you know, RPG systems of Oblivion and those kind of things, and then they put it into the first-person shooter realm with Fallout, where you had a gun and all that kind of stuff. And sure, don't get me wrong, the shooting is nowhere near as good as you like your Call of Duties or any of your top-tier shooters, but it's still a first-person shooter in a completely massive and open world for you to do as you please. And it's marrying these separate elements, which will probably be the future of better games, I'm hoping, because, you know, you can only do so much with a certain genre. You need to diversify, you need to get as progressive as you can and just make the best possible stuff that you can. So hopefully we'll be seeing it, you never know. But yeah, this level's pretty simple, there's not too much to talk about aside from the obvious. It's what you're going to be doing for a lot of the game as well, so get good at it now or you're going to have trouble later on. So, probably going to go back to talking about the films that I've been mentioning, because I've watched a few of them. And onto a couple of comedies that I watched. Well, I say comedy, but this one's actually probably a family adventure or something silly like that. And I'm speaking, of course, about the modern, you know, reimagining of Gulliver's Travels with Jack Black. And it's not the best of films, but it's very watchable. I mean, if you're young, it's obviously been, you know, tailored to a young audience. You're probably going to have a lot of fun with it, because it's Jack Black being silly, and there's, you know, a lot of PG-orientated humour in it. But at the same time, there is some pretty fun, you know, nerdy references to Star Wars and various other, you know, social media. So there is some fun to be had. It's also got Jason Segel in it, doing the most ridiculous wannabe English accent I've ever fucking heard. But no idea why he's doing that, he just kinda is. And it's got, you know, Sean Connery and a bunch of other people. It's also got a woman called Catherine Tate, who does a comedy sketch show in England, if anybody's, you know, overseas and not familiar with her. Which is an interesting move for her, because it's nice to see her getting, you know, more international work. But the film itself is kind of standard, you know exactly where it's going, it's not going to surprise you whatsoever, but there is humour to be had. I did giggle at certain stuff in it. It's just, I probably wouldn't watch it again, but, you know, I'll watch anything once. That's generally my mantra towards movies, so if you're in the mood for watching some Jack Black, why not? It's there, it's not too bad. And this fight here is against one of the greater werewolves that I've mentioned, and this guy will try to counter you, and what he does is, when you swing at him, sometimes he'll dash to the side, and if he dashes to the side, he always responds with a thrusting swing, which you can sink block and abuse, because you can get him into this evading pattern. It's not as, you know, surefire way as doing it as it is with, like, the necromancers. Because the necromancers later on, I've got a method where you can physically loop them, so they will continually do the same move, and it seals their fate, because you just sink block it, attack, sink block it, attack. It's very similar to the strategy I'm going to show you on how to defeat Pan later on, so... but they're not too bad, these guys. The only problem is, unless you're used to fighting them, they can be intimidating, and especially later on, because they're going to throw them at you in large numbers. Like, you'll take them on 2 at the same time, 3 at the same time, so... just practice fighting them. If you do die a couple times against them, it's going to pay you dividends in the end, because you'll learn how to, you know, watch what they do, you'll learn the patterns, their animations, you'll learn how to counter them, and you'll just be more comfortable in fighting them. So, the last film I watched, which is something I watched last night, is called Hall Pass. But I'm not going to go into it because we don't have much of this video left, so I'll probably touch on that in the next one. And one thing I didn't know is it's by the Farrelly brothers, and I am a massive Farrelly brothers, you know, fan. Me, Myself and Irene, There's Something About Mary, you know, stuff like that. Absolutely brilliant. Kingpin, another really good one. But yeah, I'll speak about that one in the next video. So that's the end of this level, guys. I hope it helped. I hope you're enjoying the guide, and you take care now.